Hey guys, welcome back to Larry TCG. Just got back from a weekend of really fun One Piece regional and Treasure Cup events. This weekend we had the Brisbane One Piece regional, and then we had the Treasure Cup on the Sunday. So Sunday event. On Saturday I took blue yellow Nami and ended up X3 with some pretty bad tiebreakers. So unfortunately I did miss top 64. I was X2 up into the last round, and then had a very tough game in the last round and just lost. So, but that's okay. I went home and then I had a bit of a think. I was like, obviously there are some concepts that we can be applying across a lot of different yellow decks at the moment. Obviously, a lot of the cards are very generic. But I spoke to my friend Cam, who played a different blue-yellow deck in Boa. So I got really inspired because he actually got top 32 with Boa on the Saturday. And he proved that this deck is actually very strong at the moment. So I had a chat to him. I obviously took this deck to Nats, and I'm a big fan of it. And I think it was a little bit slept on in the fact that obviously when Pudding got banned and, we saw Red Rock rotate out, it got a little bit harder to play into some of the decks just because we lost a lot of our key pieces. But the deck is still very functional with a lot of what it does, with all the Kuja Pirate triggers, with a lot of very strong top end, and now we've got even more generic yellow cards. I got very inspired by my friend and decided that I'd take it on the Sunday. So on the Sunday I took it, went 6-2 and ended up getting 18th, so very happy with that. And I just wanted to do a deck profile about this and just discuss some of the aspects of why I think this deck is actually very good. So again, shout outs to my friend Cam. He inspired me to play this deck. We discussed the list and I did make some changes, which I'll explain. And he sort of helped me with the theory going into the event. So very big shout out to him. I didn't do a whole lot of testing coming into this weekend just because I've been very busy with other things. But obviously a lot of the time that I put into playing for Nats sort of carried over to this event. So let's get into the deck list. So starting off, I've got 4 copies of Grandma, just to stack your life, 4 copies of Ran, obviously a good card to play on 4 and a good trigger. We've got 4 Gorgon Sisters, of course. I'd play more if I could. 4 Shaki, and then 4 Boa. So these are the main sort of Kuja Pirates that you're playing in the mid game. These are all your trigger Kuja Pirates. Obviously your leader effect says when you trigger you draw a card, when you play out a character, and then if they KO any of these apart from Grandma, then they have to take a life as well when you have a Don on your leader. So really good. It punishes your opponent for attacking you too much or attacking your board. So those aspects are obviously very strong. This card is exceptional at the moment, and I'll explain why in just a moment. I've got 4 Zorro, 4 Borsalino, and 4 Kuma. So you can see 12 heal cards. There's actually 16 if you count the Boa Hancock, the 9 cost. But pretty much the intention of this deck now is to use Boa to stack your heals. So the reason I really enjoyed this deck over UI Nami is because you really do get a lot more agency in what goes on your life. You have the ability to stack your life, put these triggers onto your life and really punish your opponent. There's a number of different combos you can do with this deck. It's not just putting a Kuja Pirate on life, although that is very strong, putting a Gorgon Sister, for example, on life. But there's so many other plays you can do with all these heal cards as well. And you can do little combinations where you're able to heal, like summon this and then use Zoro to heal on the same turn, or use Borsalino or Kuma. It's all conveniently within 10 Don, so you can definitely do that. So moving on with the deck list, I've got 4 Kumasi, 3 Perona, and 4 Gecko Moria. So this is the Thriller Bark package that I'm choosing to play. Cam's list on Saturday did play 2 of this card, but I thought I would up it up to 3 just because I really wanted to see this card and it was very important against some matchups. Gecko Moria has a very scary trigger in this deck for the opponent, that is. Being able to summon any character back with a 4 cost or less means that you're able to play either your boa or your Zoro. So the real strength in stacking your life and being able to summon from trash is being able to stack with your boa Hancock, your 4 cost. Obviously attaches it onto your leader and it's a blocker, so they're two very good attributes. Turns on your leader effect, you have a blocker there. But being able to stack your life into a Gecko Moria, for example, they hit your life, you trigger, you summon out Zoro, you then draw a card off your leader, and then you're able to use Zoro to heal again during your opponent's turn. Very, very strong. If you do get a particularly potent stack, you're able to even, stack your life and then heal into the Gecko, and then your leader draws a card once the Gecko summons the Zoro out from the trash, and then your Zoro heals into something that will also be able to affect your opponent in that turn, say like a Kumasi, which will then revive a Perona, which stuns another attack. So you're able to get out of so much if you're able to set up your life like that, and it really puts your opponent in a position where they honestly can't go for game because they don't know what's on your life, and there's so many different options as well. And obviously with your leader effect being able to draw infinite times on your opponent's turn, it's not once per turn, that's your draw. So you get your cards back into your hand. UI Nami obviously draws when a life leaves, and it's known to have a very big hand size. This is sort of a different way of replenishing your hand. So we've got a lot of triggers and a lot of ways to really refill our hand during the opponent's turn. I've got 4 of Boa Hancock, 9 cost. Again, we really value having a lot of trigger bodies and stuff. This is not a trigger body in the sense that it summons itself. I'd hope it didn't, but it plays out something from your hand with 6k or less and a trigger. So you're able to set up a Gorgon Sister from your hand, or a Perona from your hand, or even early on, if you don't have anything, if you see it on your stack, you can still summon something from your hand early if your opponent attacks you, and keep up that pressure there. I wanted to play 4 because I still wanted to see the card as well to play it out. However, in some matchups, you don't actually play it out too much. There are some that are a bit more grindy, some like Blue Yellow Nami, for example. I'll explain some of the matchups in just a moment, but this card doesn't honestly come up too much against some of the more aggressive decks just because you don't have a whole lot of time to play it. You'd rather play a couple of, of these cards like Zoro and Borsellino and such to kind of get a bit more defense as well, because you've got the blocker, and then you can stack your life as well if you've got this blocker plus, say, Zoro or something. So a little bit more safe than playing 9 cost Boa, even though it's very, very strong still. And to round the deck list off, I've got a couple of tech cards. So I've got Rayleigh, very, very good. I actually did want to play 2 copies of it just because it being able to KO Reiju against the purple Enel deck is actually very, very strong. It can KO Borsellino off trigger. There's so many different ways of being able to use this card, but unfortunately I didn't really have the space, as you can kind of see. I had to make a couple of concessions here. So one of the other concessions I made was cutting FEMA from 2 to 1. Cam did play 2, and he wanted to see it a little bit more. I obviously value this card a lot, but I decided to cut it to 1 so I could bump up Perona to 3 there. So, but you can definitely play multiples of this, or Rayleigh, or whatever you would like. Yeah, that's sort of what I went with. And the last card is just one of these Frighten events. I really wanted to play this card in my list for Sunday. I did play this in UI Nami as well, as a bit of a sort of a left field card. Opponents weren't expecting it. It did come up quite a few times when I did see it, and obviously they're not expecting it, so it's a very good card. So in this deck and Nami, it also functioned as a trigger, so you're able to play out something from your hand as well. So fulfills that purpose of being able to get triggers to play out your bodies. So that's the deck list. I just wanted to talk about some of the matchups. So with this format, obviously we're seeing a whole lot of purple Enel, we're seeing a lot of UI Nami, we're seeing a bunch of different decks actually. I've seen Ace pop up, we're seeing Mihawk pop up. It was very surprising actually to see at the Brisbane event, there was a whole lot of Mihawk. It was very, very popular, and it was actually a bit of a sleeper pick, I would say. Boa Hancock, I don't think was necessarily a deck people were expecting. So, coming into it, I was like, We knew that we had a pretty bad matchup into UI Nami, but that was before we saw some of these heal cards like Borsalino and Zoro. Being able to heal in the mid game ensures that you're not just being rushed down, or you're not being aggroed out of your life, and it gives you so many more plays in the middle of the game as opposed to just playing like a Ran or a Boa blocker or something and swinging 7 or something like that. So these cards definitely helped your longevity and being able to set up a board as well, because they're 6k swings as well if you want to swing with it. Usually, obviously, you swing with this, you don't care if it gets KO'd. Later on in the game, you can revive it with your Moria, but they're obviously good stats as well. So coming into the event, and I was discussing with Cam, we were kind of thinking that the game plan had to shift from just trigger in the normal sense. Obviously, there is a whole lot of triggers in this deck, and there was during Nat's time in OP14 format, but you don't want to just take all your life and gamble on triggers, right? There's a high chance there will be a trigger, but you need to be very smart. Purple NL players are playing a lot of tech cards as well, so they're playing cards like the Law that makes you discard 2 cards if you've got 7 or more cards. Blue Yellow Nami, the game can go on for quite a long time, and they can create situations for you that can be quite difficult to get out of. And then you've obviously got some other situations that can occur when you play this deck. So I versed a Yellow NL, which I lost to, and really your leader effect, whilst it's great, it's actually very good for NL because you make them take a life and then they just heal it back with something like 10 cost NL. That's what I experienced. So they're pretty much getting free cards. And Danelle is a very difficult deck to sort of rush down, obviously, and then it's very, very punishing if you kind of lose patience and you start attacking in. They have very big bodies and they can contest a lot of your big bodies and your board presence. So yeah, I found Enel quite difficult. Purple Enel though, honestly much easier time. The players that I versed weren't actually playing Ohm. Ohm's pretty good against yellow decks overall. It's not just particularly good against Boa or anything, but the ability for them to be able to double attack means that the game sort of shortens a bit. If they get the Ohm and the dog combo, you can kind of put a lot of pressure on earlier. The players that I was versing weren't necessarily playing the dog, or they didn't see it, I'm not sure, and it made the games a lot more manageable, I think. The ability to heal in the mid game means that you can semi-freely take life. Again, you don't really want to play into that lore, but being able to, take a couple of lives, get some triggers, and really put the pressure onto Enel is very, very key. So that's what I liked about this as opposed to Nami, which has a lower density of triggers overall. I was playing cards like Kikanojo and obviously the Thriller Bark stuff. So if you did see the Thriller Bark stuff, it's okay, but the issue is they come out rested, so they can Lightning Dragon them, or Kikanojo only triggers when they have 3 or less life. So if they don't, then you don't get the trigger. So these Amazon Lily cards, the Kuja Pirates and that, they just come out for free. So very, very cool. Versus Ace, obviously you are still very favored, I would say. Very, very strong game plan into Ace. They have some new cards, obviously. They have Zoro, so they can go to 8k, and they do have a couple of more like bounce cards, I guess. So they're playing like Atmos and Jozu, which they were playing before, but they're still obviously good against your deck. But I think Ace still struggles because you have 3 life and you can have the ability to go pretty wide. And if you've got something like Gorgon Sisters, again, you can be swinging for 6, which is obviously the magic number against 6k leader. So that's the Ace matchup. UI Nami, I mentioned before, it is technically a losing matchup, I would say. I think it is not as hard as I initially thought. Now, a lot of people were telling me that it was going to be completely unwinnable playing this deck into UI. I did try it myself into UI Nami, and I even played it. I played the matchup in OP14 format, and it definitely did feel hard, and it still is hard. But there are a couple of key things that do happen in that matchup that I find can really determine how it goes. So first off, I would say is the amount of heal cards that you see throughout your game. So you're going to be playing this attrition war with that against Nami, because obviously they can heal as well. They have a lot of recursion and card draw, and you're going to have to take lives in order to get your triggers. So they're going to get their draws, they're going to be healing. You're pretty much doing the same thing, except they're able to go to 7k, and then they have access to Robin as well. So you need to take it very slow, but you are able to pressure Nami pretty well. Cards like Gorgon's Sister really help with being able to get that 7k swing into the Nami leader. You can play a heal card, and then you can obviously do your stacking, heal your life, do what you need to do. You can do a 5k swing with something you've got. They'll likely pitch a card and become 7, and then you can just do a couple of 7s into their life with the Dons that you get from Gorgon's Sister, with some spare Don that you might have sort of mid to late game. The plan is to obviously be conservative, but you want to be putting on pressure, because obviously when Robin does come out and it does heal, they're getting a lot of advantage from it. So if you're able to put them in a position where, say if you've got that boa blocker out, the 4 cost, if they do attack, they have to take a life. So it kind of mitigates that heal that they get, like the extra heal. And you really want to try and make them take a life on their own turn using your leader effect. Like obviously they're going to be attacking you, so they're going to get a draw, or they might move their own life with Robin or something, so they're going to get a draw regardless. You want to try and make them take a life as well. So you want them to take a life in their turn and in your turn. So it kind of offsets the amount of advantage that they get from healing all the time. You're not going to be able to keep up with the 7k all the time, and you're going to have to sort of just pass and, go backwards and forwards a little bit and play that attrition. But that's where cards like, Boa Hancock 9 cost come into handy. Being able to summon such a large body and being able to heal and trash their life, not trash, but like make them take a life, and then you heal back, really, really key. I find when I have multiple of this against Nami, it makes it a lot easier, because it's then a 10k swing. If you've got Gorgons and you've played out a heal card or something, it's 11k swing. They're usually taking that. So even if you like swing 5, they go to 7, you can swing 10 or 11, whatever. You can just even limp swing it, like blank swing 10k. They're probably not going to give you 2 cards at that moment, especially if you've got other cards on the field as well and you haven't really committed any Don yet. If you're putting them in these really awkward spots where you're threatening a lot of really big swings, that's really, really key, However, I will say it does get a little bit tricky when they do play out the Newgate. So they're obviously playing 10 cost Newgate blocker, and that card gives them a lot of options for defense, and then being able to aggressively attack you back as well. Obviously, if you set up your boards with boas, if they attack into the boa and try and clear it, then they have to take a life, which is still really good. However, it's them being able to choose when they want to block and when they want to attack, and it provides them with a lot of different options going through the turns. So Newgate's definitely very, very scary. We don't have a way of really clearing it. Like I don't play Rygo, though there were times when I was playing against UI Nami, where I wish I did. But Rygo is kind of counterintuitive. You go down to 1 life, so it's a bit of a risk doing that in this deck. But yeah, look, otherwise the event was a lot of fun. I do think that Boa is very, very strong. I think she does have weaknesses. Again, Mihawk can be really hard too. There are so many different decks that I saw people were playing, but really if we're just sort of speaking about the main decks in UI Nami, Purple Enel, Ace, I guess, they're really, there's goods and bads. And I think that the Purple Enel matchup, most notably, is actually good, lest I say. Though I think that deck has a lot of options, and I think once Enel players do figure out how to verse Boa properly, I think it might be a little bit tricky. There were some things that I was kind of observing when I was playing against Purple Enel with this deck that people weren't really clued onto yet. And I think that if they do prioritize those actions, I think it's a lot harder for me. So yeah, I think if this deck does get a little bit more popular, I think people will learn how to play against it. And as such, it might get a little bit harder. However, I still think the game plan is very solid into Enel. And yeah, I think if they get better, so will we. So we'll just have to adapt to their adapt. So one last matchup that I missed, actually, Lucy. The reason I didn't mention Lucy is because I barely versed it all weekend, actually, even on day one. Lucy, I versed in the last round of the Treasure Cup with Boa. It's supposed to be a bad matchup, I believe. A little bit tricky. However, with the game plan of being able to heal a lot and get your, being able to get your bodies out, you can ping a lot of cards out of their hand. If you're able to get something like Rayleigh out, I know we're only playing one, but, if we get a Rayleigh, we're able to KO the Cavendish, which is actually a very, very big tempo swing. If they do swing with the Cavendish, I would try and prioritize killing it, or at the minimum trying to freeze it with Perona if we don't see Rayleigh. They do get a lot of advantage off that Cavendish, and I think that the less swings that Cavendish gets or getting it off the board is key, because if they've got a massive hand, it's going to be very, very hard at the end of the game to go for that Perfume FEMA million K swing that we love doing. So we're obviously only playing one FEMA, but that was part of the reason why playing two could be considered, because it helps into those matchups where they have a lot of cards in hand. Ace as well, even though I think Ace is not necessarily a bad matchup at all. So yeah. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you do have any questions, if you have any comments, please leave them below. You can reach out on Twitter. I posted my list on Twitter as well, and obviously doing this video. But again, big shout out to Cam. I really appreciate the time that he spent explaining to me the deck and helping me with the list. The only changes I made were bumping the Perona up and playing the one cost event, Frighten Me event, but pretty much the composition of the deck was very, very similar to his. So I'm really, really appreciative for him, and appreciate you guys, and thanks for watching again, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.